It has been a long time since I've made one of these videos, and in case any of my regular subscribers are wondering why I haven't been uploading really at all recently, is the short answer is work. I got a new job like a year ago, and it keeps me very busy, and at the end of a long week with just not just work, but all the other stuff I do on the side as hobbies or like just, other stuff. At the end of the day, like making videos is just like low on my priority list, and I just don't have the energy for it. I am planning on doing a Moron TV based cover, which I've been working on the last few weeks. But this kind of video is easier to make instead of me just spending hours and hours listening and tabbing it out and sitting down to actually learn it and play through it over and over and over. So this is something nice and simple just to get something out to you guys. And also, for the record, I never made a video on the Buckethead concert I went to April 8th, 2019, I believe. That was honestly just because there wasn't a whole lot of new stuff to report on other than, he wore this weird visor for like the first 6 songs. Like if you guys look up videos from around that time, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I already have 3 Buckethead concert reviews already, so I won't spend any more time on that. So, for you guys coming for the, what the heck is the first guy's name? Phillip and Slomo, Ministry, Primus, and Slayer video, I would like to make it clear that this review is basically going to be from the perspective of a non-fan, because I went for Primus. Honestly, I love Primus. I love weird music. Like, I don't really listen to a whole lot of like traditional or like popular metal, like Slayer, like Ministry. So I'm not really a huge fan of those of those kinds of bands. So again, take this review as from the perspective of a non-fan. I'm just gonna tell you what I saw when I was there and what I thought of everything. And if you're like, you don't know who that guy is, or you don't know that song, like, sorry. Anyways, so I like general admission, and I like getting to shows early. I showed up to this one like an hour before doors open, as I usually do, because I like to be close to the stage. I feel it's more personal. I feel the impact is more direct from the band to the audience. And also, I just like viewing the musicianship of everyone on stage. Like, I'm not really much of a mosher. Like, that's not the primary reason why I'm there. I'm there because I'm a big fan of the band and I want to see them perform. So I got there early, but even despite that, I still only managed to get a second row spot, not right up against the rail. And the first group, and I'm just going off quick point form notes to make sure I don't get completely lost. Phillip and Slomo and the Illegals, they actually came out early, which was surprising. They came out at like 5:57 or 5:58 instead of 6. And pardon my cough, I'm just getting over a cold. Yeah, they did a real short set. It was only like 6 songs, and it was all Pantera covers. I personally am not really a big Pantera fan. Um, again, this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think Dimebag Darrell is kind of an overrated guitarist. Kind of. Like, he's good, really good even, but people hold him up on this pedestal like he's some guitar god, like he's one of the all-time greats, and in my mind, he just simply isn't on that same level. But, these guys, there's not much to really comment on with them. Like I said, they did a real short set. It must have been less than 30 minutes. And they just, like, they were high energy, and they got the crowd doing multiple pits, which was good, I guess. But then they just, like, kind of quickly got out of there. And next came Ministry, which I've never really listened to Ministry's stuff. But I gotta say, just based on my experience with this show, I was pleasantly surprised by these guys, and I would actually like to check out more of their stuff, which is a good sign that they put on a good show. I wasn't really sure what to expect when they first came out, because this, like, Jack Sparrow looking dude, again, not a fan, don't know any of these people. He came out and he's just like, we're gonna keep it real simple and just play 8 old songs for you. And yeah, I just loved their riffs. I loved their groove. I loved their energy. My favorite part of their set was probably their Supernaut cover, the Black Sabbath song. That was really fun. And that's really where the crowd surfing began. And I'll get more into that once I get to the Slayer portion of this. But yeah, their set was short, only 8 songs. Now we get to Primus, which is honestly the reason I went to the show in the first place. I'm a big Primus fan. I love Les Claypool to death. I just love him as a bass player. I love him as just like a crazy, innovative musician who makes music that doesn't really sound like anybody else. And that's really, in general, what a lot of my favorite musical artists are. They just have such a distinct sound that doesn't really sound like anybody else, and that's what sets them apart to me, and that's why I love them, and that's why I love Primus. And Primus comes out, they start with those damn blue collar tweakers, and of course, during the break after the bass solo, Les is like, we all know why you're really here. And then he starts the chant, Slayer's coming, Slayer's coming. And he makes this comment like, hey, I want to see Slayer too, but I got in for free, so fuck all y'all. And yeah, that was funny. And Slayer, their set was also comparatively short. It was only like 10 or 11 songs. It was all stuff from the 90s, none of their new stuff. No Lee Van Cleef, no Chocolate Factory stuff, which is kind of a shame because I do like their new stuff as well. But I get it because they want to keep it short and to the point because they're not the main act. And so at one point they started playing Cygnus X1, the Rush song, and Rush is my favorite band, my second favorite musical artist in general, and when that happened, I swear, I was like the only person in that entire pit who like lost their shit because, I'm a big Rush fan. Primus are big Rush fans. Like, Rush was a big influence on them when they started up. So, um, that was really awesome, even though they only played up to uh, just before the vocals come in, the invisible to telescopic eye thing. But they did the next best thing after that, though. They broke into Winona's Big Brown Beaver, which I love, and they also played Frizzle Fry. That was another highlight for me because I just love that song, especially like the last 2 minutes of the song, just the way it builds and builds and builds. It's just so satisfying. And, uh, Les was more energetic on stage this time than he was the last time I saw them in 2017. Like I said in that video, I don't know if that was touring fatigue or what, but yeah, it also might have been because it was for Slayer and they wanted to be a little more high energy. And as far as the moshing goes, the the moshing during Primus was more intense and energetic, but the pit for Slayer was bigger, I would say. And but I'll get to that in a second. Anyways, they cut Jerry Was a Race Car Driver short, after the first like heavy breakdown. Instead of going into the guitar solo after that, they just stop unless it's just like Time for Slayer or something like that, and then they all go off stage, which was, a little bit of a bummer. And also one other thing I noticed was during My Name is Mud, how at the end of the song there's always exactly 10 repetitions of that I can't scat, but you know what I'm talking about. That like just bass and drum thing at the end. There's always 10 repetitions of that, like every version I heard, but this one they did more, which I don't know what to say about that. It just threw me off. But anyways, on to Slayer themselves. So, like I said, I'm not like the biggest Slayer fan ever. I do enjoy their Hell Awaits album and their Rain and Blood album. I haven't listened to much of their new stuff, like their more groove metal inspired stuff, although I will say one of the songs they played earlier in the set, like either their like fifth or eighth or ninth song, had this like really nice like groovy riff to it that I just really got into. And and Tom, the frontman bassist, he did not really interact with the audience very much. And when he did interact with the audience, it was like kind of weird to me. Like it seemed like he seemed somber, and like when he talked, it was like in a way where, again, it's gonna sound weird, but it like kind of sounded like he was about to cry or something. And he only like talked to the audience twice in the entire set of like 20 songs. And at the end of the show, like after everything was done, he just like kind of stood there with his thumbs in his pockets and just like looked out at the audience for like an entire minute. And again, he had this like somber look on his face, and he, after a while, he just like went to the microphone and said like, thank you all so much. Your kind words mean so much to us, and you guys mean everything to us, and we thank you for everything," and something like that. And then he just like quietly walked off stage, which to me seemed, I don't know, it seemed a little odd. Like I think he was just like sad or something, because he knew this is like their 10th to last show ever. Like, Slayer's been on their farewell tour forever now. They've been on their farewell tour for over a year, and I didn't know like really when it was gonna end. But apparently this is the end. Like, they only have like 10 or 12 more dates after this. And apparently those are going to be the last Slayer shows ever. But um, even despite that, they were still high energy when Tom was actually performing. Like, he was like yelling and like really projecting and just like going crazy with the vocals the way you should when singing a Slayer song. And Kerry King, I must say, Kerry King's beard is even more impressive in real life than I was expecting. He was high energy. Their replacement guitarist, I don't know his name, whoever replaced Jeff after he died, he was high energy too. And their drummer, I don't know who their replacement drummer is. I know Dave Lombardo was the original Slayer drummer, but I don't know why he left. But their new drummer, he killed it too. And yeah, there's not much to really say about the performance itself and the musicianship itself, other than it was just high energy and good and just really suiting of a Slayer live show. And there were a lot of pyrotechnics, which was cool, and the moshing was like energetic for the first half of Slayer's set, but like toward the second half, it started to like die down, and I think that's just because people were getting tired, because this is the fourth act of the night, and by that point it was probably like 11 p.m. and people have been there since 6, and I think people were just getting tired, because even the third to last song, Raining Blood, which, Raining Blood, even I know that's a thrash metal anthem. Like, you start with the like sparse drums and like the weird whammy stuff on guitar, and the do 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 do, and of course everybody cheers for that. And then when the double bass kicks in and the chugging guitars, the starts kicking in, I expected everybody to lose their shit, which, some people did, but like not everyone like went as crazy as I thought they would. And again, I think that's just because by that point in the night, everyone was just so tired. And I'm just double checking to make sure I didn't forget anything, because, at this point, I don't think there's really much else to comment on other than, like, the whole show, the whole package as a whole, all the acts, like, everything. It's just a good, solid, high energy metal show, and if they're around for the last like 10 or 12 shows they do, you should see them. And after Primus played, I legitimately can't tell if this one guy next to me was saying it genuinely or sarcastically. He was like, after Primus left, the guy was like, "That guy's a good bass player," and if he's saying it genuinely, then all I can really say is, you don't know the half of it, man. Like, that show, at least that night that I saw, the songs they played that night, is probably only indicative of about 50% of Les Claypool's bass playing ability. Like, the songs they did that night, I'd say were pretty, like, tame by his standards, because some of their songs are just, like, absolutely insane on bass. But yeah, yep, I think that's everything I wanted to really say about it. This concert review wasn't really as in-depth as some of the past ones I've done, just because uh, previous ones where I've been like a huge fan of the band and like heavily anticipating it, like Rush on their R40 tour, or like some of Weird Al's shows of all things. Like, I really wanted to go like track by track, song by song on each one of those set lists and all the different things they did. But this one, you know, again, like Jack Sparrow, as I want to call him from Ministry said, I'm just going to keep it simple and say uh, it's a good, high energy show. And even I did a little bit of moshing and shoving people around, even though I'm not really into that sort of thing. And again, that was more in Slayer's set when like everybody was going crazy, so you didn't really have a choice but to kind of be pushed to the edge of the pit anyway. So yeah, like I said, good show. See them while you still can, which won't be for too long, but yeah. I went for Primus, though. Primus is going to be around for, at least like another 15 years, I would say. Probably longer. So, but Slayer, yeah, if you're a Slayer fan, see them now while you can. And you won't be disappointed, is all I can really say. And from what I can tell from what's expected of them and the show they put on.